Hi everyone, this is Grace of gbmaltese, and I thought I'd do a paint with me. I wanted to show you what I have done on the roses so far, on my gorgeous crystalline red roses. This is just beautiful. It is so much prettier than I even imagined. But you've seen me work on the roses, so I thought today I'd work on the bottom part, which I have been working on also. So let me get the bottom portion pulled up, and you can see I have a lot of the vase done. I have some of the pomegranates done. So I'll pull this up and show you. Look at the vase. I love the vase just as much as I do any other part. It's gorgeous. And then I have a little bit of the pomegranates done. I do one color. I choose a color and just work on that. So I love it. I am loving this so much. So beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to position you so you can see what I'm working on. I'm going to work down here today. So I'm going to be using the ends, and this, in case you don't remember or you've not seen this before, this is what this diamond painting will look like. It's a 50 by 70. All of this area is done in crystals, crystalline. It's fabulous. So let me get my things together. This also comes with these strips, so I don't have to go and look all the way up there to the front to find what color I need. So I'm working on the ends, and the ends are let's look on here, number 17. So I've pulled number 17 out. Kind of get it shook up. Get a piece of parchment paper, non-stick parchment paper for sure, so it doesn't stick to it, and get ready to start putting some of these gorgeous crystals down. Okay, I'm going to put this like this and this like this so that I can work on them and chat with you a little bit. Well, that's covering up all of that, so I'll tell you what, I'm going to put it down here so you can see the other part of this. It's just so pretty. I enjoy looking at it, and the more I get done, the more I want to do. So I'm like, I've got to do another paint with me so I can work on this with you guys before I get it finished, because I am ready to move on with this. Let me pull it back just a little bit so I'm not right up in your face doing this. I said before that when I'm working with the crystals, I like to do them one by one. They're just so pretty. I did the black with multi-placers, and that goes pretty quick. And I had said I would show you my favorite I have a couple that I like to use, a couple of different ways, so I will show those soon. But I just wanted to paint today. Just wanted to do a little DP. You know, sometimes you just have those days that you just kind of sit back and relax and do this, get the stress all out of your system. I have enjoyed all the comments that I've had. I had several comments on the last one I did about my Swarovski t-shirts that I had made, and I had several saying they wanted me to show how to do that, so that it's going to be an upcoming video. I did have to order some more the metal pieces. Those are called rhine studs, because I thought I would do a butterfly. I love the butterfly, not the butterfly, the hummingbird, And I used these special, I thought I'd never find them. I finally found them on eBay. And the company that I ordered from all those many years ago is still in business. So I was able to find them. I was very happy because I was looking everywhere. And the store name, oh shoot, I can't remember it, but the it's Pappy, P-A-P-I. I don't know if that's the name they go by, but they have another store name. But that is how I remembered it, by seeing Pappy as the seller. That's the name of the seller, I believe. And they have the cheaper rhinestones, if you want those. And they have all different types of rhine studs. Those are the metal pieces. And I ordered some more of the blue teardrop ones. And they had some in the shape of a leaf that's green. So I ordered some of those because someone was mentioning it would look pretty to do a rose on. And we did do some roses, but we did those in rhine studs. So I might try it with the crystals. It's just the more crystals you use, the more it costs. Of course, I'm not planning on selling at this time. I have no plans of opening that back up. If I did this now, I don't know that I would want to go back through all of that mess of getting a tax number and opening a business. It's just a pain. And any of you out there who've done it, you know what I'm talking about. It's just the trying to get things done. Let me see. I hope you can see what I'm doing okay. I'm not sure if I'm getting the best view here or not for you guys. Let me try back just a little bit. Excuse me. All of my drainage is causing me to have to keep clearing my throat. And I will apologize now for having to keep doing that. I try not to, but I think most of you do understand that this time of year is a little bit strange. Oh, and we do have a tropical storm out in the Gulf of Mexico. And most of you know I live in East Texas. Right now they're showing that it's going to hit in Louisiana. Not sure exactly where it's going to hit yet. And if it blows more this way, then we'll get more impact. But as now, it's just a tropical storm. It's not a hurricane. And I hope that it does not do any damage. I know they have started evacuating some people in I'm not sure if it's New Orleans or... I didn't look at the different places in Louisiana where they have started evacuating some people, because New Orleans and, well, Louisiana and Houston, those areas in the south, they are sinking. They're almost below sea level, if they aren't below sea level. So they flood very quickly, and it comes fast. So they recommend people getting on out of there before it hits. What happens if they don't get out? They have to send out boats, different types of, different crews, whether it's the Coast Guard, the firemen, the police, to go rescue these people. And you just don't want anyone to drown or anything to happen to anyone. So they're trying to get people moved before anything happens. I hope and pray that no one is killed in this, because that is unfortunately something that does happen in these hurricanes. I can't believe that we have one this early. Well, it's not a hurricane yet. I don't know if it will. They said if it does become a hurricane, it would probably only be a Category 1. Category 5 is a very destructive one. So that's how they're measured. The higher the number, the worse the hurricane is, the worst winds. The wind is what you really scary. And then lots of rain. I'm not sure how much rain that different areas are going to get, but that is a definite threat for people in low-lying areas. So if any of you are in the path of this tropical storm, maybe a hurricane coming through, I pray that everything goes well. I don't know what will happen here. Right now they're just predicting a little bit of rain, not much of anything. Of course, that could change tomorrow. That's what happens with the weather around here. And I'm sure it happens where you live too. Things can take a turn on a dime. It will just decide, oh, I'm going to go this way now. And then whoop, turns and goes another direction. So, you just got to be ready for everything. I looked at the heat index for today, and I believe it was 104 this afternoon. It's just too hot to do much of anything. The only good thing is if we get a little bit of rain, it'll cool things off. But the bad thing is when it's over, the humidity is 10 times worse. So you can't win for losing. And gosh, I hope nobody loses their electricity without having air conditioning. Oh, Lord have mercy. It is horrible. I remember one year we had, I don't remember which hurricane it was, if it was Rita or, it might have been Rita. I can't remember. And we were without electricity for several days. And it was so hot. I believe it hit either in August or September. And it's hot here during that time. And my brother, I have one brother that lives next to me, about 100 yards. And I have another brother that lives about 45 miles from me. They didn't lose electricity over there. So and this is when my mom was still alive. So I took my mom, my animals, and we went and stayed with my brother who had air conditioning. It was just miserable. Now my husband, he just stayed at the house. He can take that heat. Since I've gotten older, no, just don't want anything to do with it. So we stayed, gosh, 2 or 3 days till they got it back on. Certainly couldn't have my mom in that heat. It was rough. So that's why I say, especially at this time of year, that no one loses power. And it can also mess the water up. So you have to have plenty of water to drink. So just hoping that nothing serious comes out of this tropical storm. I remember the one, and I don't know if it was, I think it was Rita, again, where they were evacuating people from Houston, Louisiana, different areas, and they were sending them up here to where I live, and they opened the school that I worked at. I was the junior high at that time. They opened that school, and the school was fairly new, especially at that time. And when they locked everything upstairs, so all I could do was get in the downstairs portion. The cafeteria and everything were down there. But some of the people that came in there tore it up. They made a big mess, and it's sad that has to happen, especially for the ones who really need the help. You just never know with people what's going to happen, but it's real sad when someone comes in and messes it up for others. I was just thankful my room was upstairs and they didn't get into my things and mess it up. That's no fun. Oh, and talking about school, it seemed to never fail that at the beginning of the school year it seems like something happens. Either the air conditioning isn't working, because they'll a lot of times leave it off during the summer to save on electricity, and it is hot. They'll try to get it going before the kids come back, but the teachers, we have to start before the kids come back. We have all these meetings to do, and we go back before meetings, and you talk about hot. Woo, Lord of mercy. They don't put windows in schools. I remember when I was a kid, we had big windows, and you could open them and get some air in. I was like I said, on the second floor. Well, this is when I was teaching junior high. When I was teaching third grade, it was a one-story building, and there were no windows at all in the school. And it never failed. Something like that happened. Or else something is leaking. It's a mess. We had one of the bathrooms, the pipes was overflowing, and it was leaked all over the upstairs. And of course that leaked down to the downstairs portion. And some of those people that were downstairs, because things were dripping down, so it was getting on top of their things, had things that got ruined. It was dripping down into the science labs. So it was a mess. So sometimes the beginning of school can be quite hectic, and in ways that you don't want, because you want everything perfect when the kids are coming. That's one thing that me and most teachers I know of, you wanted everything perfect in your room before the kids came, and we always had an open house before school started so the kids could see their classes and meet their teachers, and you always wanted everything to be just perfect. So when something happened, it was everybody was just on pins and needles. I've got to get this done. I don't want my room to look like that when the parents come in. And another thing, teaching school, and I know some of you out there teach, memorizing the kids' names. Now, some of those kids, you learn their names on the first day of school. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've taught school or if you have dealt with kids at all. They just are a little more social, so you get to know them fairly quickly. I always tried to get those names memorized as soon as I could. Third grade wasn't as bad, even though would have two separate classes. I'd be dealing with between 44 to 50 kids I'd have to memorize for the day. Junior high, one year I had between 150, 60 kids between all the classes I had, trying to memorize those names. Now that was tough. I always made seating charts and had them sit in certain places, and that's the reason we usually start out with seating charts, to learn who the kids are. If they sit in a different place every single day, you'll never learn their names. I would sit there and I'd kind of play a game with them. And I would go down the row and I would say their name using my seating chart. And then I would say the next one, and then I'd go back and seeing how many I could memorize. And then each day I would try to go through and remember as many names without looking as I could. And the kids got a kick out of that sometimes, because sometimes it's hard. It's just hard. I'll remember their faces. I'll see their face, and I'm like, well, they're in my class, but I can't remember the name. That one is not one I want to keep. There are plenty of these drills in here, so if the drill is not perfect, because if any of the silver coating gets scratched off on the back, it will become see-through, and it doesn't look good. I will take it off and use another one, and I have plenty of drills to do that. So I would hate to have to try to go and remember all those names now. I mean, I would do it, but Lord have mercy, it might take me even longer. I probably need to have a picture and their pictures and take it home and study every night. Because to me, it's very important to know the names of the people you're with. I'll say, hey, you, or hey, you in the blue shirt. Would you come here? You try to remember their names. And the kids would sometimes have a hard time remember their teachers' names. They didn't have as many to learn, but I'm sure they were trying to learn names of friends. They were always so happy to get back to see their friends and get back into kind of a routine. The main thing they want to get back to school for is to see their friends. And that's fine, but you know, gotta have a little bit other going on at school too. But it's a lot of fun, and it seems like that first week you keep getting new kids. Some kids don't start back on the first day of school. We have some that are still on vacation, or they are just moving in from somewhere else and they've had to get moved into their home, get their papers from their other school. So there's quite a while. Some kids didn't come in till after Labor Day, even though we might have started back on August the 17th. So lots of things happen. And then you, and I remember one year, this was in 3rd grade, I had either 3 or 4 girls named Crystal. So when you'd say Crystal, you would have to have another, I would usually say their last initial. Crystal M. Or they didn't know who I was talking to. So it was fun. Lots of fun things happen teaching school, I'm telling you. I've had lots of memorable moments. Sometimes they'll come to me when I'm just sitting there thinking about something else. And when I'm talking to you guys, I might not remember anything because I just kind of get a brain block, I guess. Just can't remember anything that I was going to say. I guess I need to remember to write something down when I think about it, but if there's not paper and pen right there close by, the chances of me doing it are slim, and the chances of remembering what I might have thought of by the time I find pen and paper might be slim too. I have a place that I keep all of my pens and paper and things, but I have a husband who likes to pick things up, and he moves them just, wherever. And does he put them back where he found it? Oh, no. He puts it right down where he was using it, and then I am forever looking for it. And he's really bad. He hides things from himself. He'll be looking for his binoculars to watch the birds. Where are my binoculars? I'm like, they were wherever you used them last. Do you remember where you were? He'll lose his reading glasses, his keys, and this has been going on forever. This is not just something that started happening. His mom was the same way. She told me one time she was looking for a pair of scissors, and she told me, I have 4 pair of scissors and I can't find one. So I know where Jerry got this. Oh, bless her heart. And she's been gone now for over a year and a half. She was the last parent that we lost, and she was she was something else, I'm gonna tell you. When I was younger, and before I had my daughter, before I became pregnant, my husband and I used to ride 3-wheelers. Now, they have 4-wheelers nowadays, but when we were riding them, they had 3-wheelers, but so many people had accidents on them, they started making them 4-wheelers. Lots of people were injured or killed on those 3-wheelers because you have to learn not to speed when you don't know what you're doing. But I loved riding. Anyway, Jerry's mom and dad both had their own 3-wheeler, and we would go riding before everything's closed up nowadays. You can't just go wherever you want to. They've closed things up, made them into deer leases and other things. But before that, there's lots of land here. And we would go riding. And we'd go to some places that were kind of gnarly. Steep slopes, going up, sideways. And we'd go mudding. There was this one, Jerry called it the beaver ponds, because there'd be beavers that would make dams there. So that's what I came up with. They named things whatever. So we'd go out there. I loved going mudding. Anyway, getting back to my mother-in-law, she was riding her 3-wheeler, and I was close to her, trying to, kind of keep an eye on her. And it was like slow motion. She was going on the side of this hill, and the next thing I knew, it was just going. She fell off. I mean, it wasn't real steep. I mean, she didn't fall very far, but it was like slow motion. And I didn't laugh in front of her because I knew that wouldn't have gone well with Christine at that time. Not at all. But she was telling us she was hurt and all this, but she got back on and started riding, and she was okay. She was going slow, very slow. So that was, I can still see her, just slow motion. Oh my goodness, the things that we get into. But I loved going out there and getting in the mud in those ponds. They weren't real deep, so especially when it was a bit drier in the summertime, we'd go in there and we'd spew mud all over everything. I loved it. I had my old clothes I wore and had a pair of old boots. Yeah, I had so much fun. And we did that for a few years, and then when I became pregnant, I quit, of course, and I've never done it again. Ended up selling my 3-wheeler, and I had a really nice one. By the time I'd learned to ride real well, I think it was a 250SX, and it had shock absorbers so that it was nice, and when I'd hit bumps, it was smooth. And I really enjoyed it. Of course, becoming a mother was most amazing. Raising my daughter Catherine was a trip in itself. She was a hoot and a half a lot of times. I had a friend at school. She said, I just love hearing your Catherine stories. Catherine was quite a little character. She did some wild and crazy things. When she was only, oh, just a few months old, she'd be crawling around, looking up under the couch, trying to see what she could see up underneath there. Nosy? That was one nosy child. She was into everything. Yeah, she's very nosy. But I guess that's what made her so smart. She'd find out if she didn't know something. She'd find out about it. And I've told you stories about her acting like she was a dog a lot, even out in public. That was that was a real treat. I know I've told the story about when Jerry took her and she was crawling around licking his shoes and untying his shoelaces while he was waiting in line to check out at Academy. He was just trying to get him some sporting goods, and he was going to let me go shop by myself. He never did it again. I just can't imagine that, can you? He had no idea what to do. None whatsoever. But she was one of these kids that when you took her to a restaurant or whatever, yeah, she was one of those that you didn't want to be very close to you. Because she was going to make sure everybody knew she was in there. Yeah, I spent a lot of time working on that poor little girl, trying to get her to be quiet. I did a lot of sweating back in that day. I remember one time she got down on the floor with her knife and fork, acting like she was cutting up food on the floor, and I'd be trying to get her back in her seat, and she'd be hollering. I guess she was about 2. It was just amazing, the things that child would do. So that is one really big reason. There's only one child in my family. I only had one child. Everyone says, if I'd had this one first, I wouldn't have had another one. Well, I did have that one first. But people always tell me, well, they're not the same. You have another one and he or she'll be totally different. And I said, well, you know what? If they're not, you'll have to put me in an institution somewhere. Because I just don't think I could take 2 like this. And my husband, he was totally happy and more than fine to just have one child. I had planned on having another one, but we didn't. I had some health issues with my anxiety and things, so I enjoyed Catherine very much. She did not want a brother. She never wanted a brother or sister. I asked her, I'd say, do you want a brother or sister? And she said, no. And I said, why not? And she said, because I could only ride the merry-go-round once. Yeah, she was born to be an only child, I guess, because she was very young when she said that. It wasn't like she was 4 or 5 years old. I don't think I've told this story. When she was 2, a little over 2, and I always read stories to her when she was young, read things to her. You know how kids are, they want you to read stories over and over. Well, Jerry and I were sitting there reading something, and she was playing. Well, then she came over, and she sat in my lap. And she said, Mama, what you doing? I said, I'm reading. And she said, well, I can't hear you. And I said, well, honey, I'm reading with my eyes. So with her, okay, to pretend like this is her eyes, she started doing like this, blinking her eyes real fast. Like she was trying to read with her eyes. That was one of the funniest things. I still remember her doing that. And she learned to read not long after that. She was reading, when she was in kindergarten, No, she was in pre-K. She was reading, it was either pre-K or kindergarten. She was reading third grade level material and beyond. She just, I guess I'd read to her so much, and she saw me reading that she thought, I'm going to learn how to read, and boy, did she ever. But that was just so funny. It was so cute. Blinking her eyes real fast, looking at the paper, looking at my paper that I was reading, and it was so cute. And I tried explaining to her about the reading after that. So she was ready to start pretty soon. She learned her alphabet and all of that very early, probably, when she was 2 years old, she was learning all kinds of things. She was going above and beyond her mama pretty quick. When she got into those math courses, I would say, that's one for your daddy, honey. She usually didn't have many questions. She understood it pretty much first time she'd see it. So I was very lucky. I was very blessed and lucky with her that I didn't have to try to relearn algebra and all those things. I don't think I could have. I hated algebra and geometry. There was not one thing to it that I thought was important. Isn't that awful? And I've already told you I didn't like history very much. I loved reading. Reading is my love and my passion. And of course I love anything artistic. Can you tell? I have done so many crafts that I can't even keep up with all of them. When I showed my Swarovski crystals and saying I was diamond painting on t-shirts before this ever came along. And that was true, and I enjoyed doing it. Of course, you came up with where you wanted to place your colors and things. It wasn't exactly like this, but it was working with shiny materials, which is the best. I love working with things that shine. Glitter, it doesn't matter what it is. Love the shine. And move this up just a little bit. We'll be finishing up with the ends pretty quick, it looks like. Excuse me. So we had a swimming pool. We just had an above ground swimming pool, but it was 28 foot. It's the largest size they carry. It was round. And I used to love swimming in that pool. Got it when Catherine was getting a little older and she could take her friends swimming out there. I hated checking the chemicals. Pretty much check them every day to make sure before I'd let my child swim around in there. It's very important to make sure those chemicals were right. Your water would get really nasty. And we put it in a place. I put it in a place that didn't have shade because I didn't want to be picking leaves out of that thing 24/7. We'd had a little cheap pool that we got at Walmart that had a pump on it, and we got a lot of use out of that. But we put it underneath some trees. We thought, oh, wouldn't the shade be nice when you're swimming? Yeah, I learned my lesson on that. There were leaves all the time. So when we had that other one put in, I made sure to put it in an area that had no trees around. So I used to get out there, and I loved being outdoors. Nowadays, I can't get out like I used to. It's so hot, and trying to make sure I don't burn myself. Back in those days, I didn't care. I've told you about my sun tanning. Oh yeah, I was really into all that. I did not want any SPF back then. That was stupid. I've been very blessed. I have not had any skin cancer. So I think a lot is attributed, like I said once before, to being olive complected, and I don't burn. I usually will tan before I would burn. Nowadays, I'd probably burn my buns off. Be out there just probably red as lobster. Now, my husband and my daughter both burn very badly. I'm half Greek, so I've got that Mediterranean olive complexion. Of course, my dad did too. He was always told that he had a lot of Scotch-Irish in him. And I'm not sure what else, because he had olive complexion, so I'm really not sure what all he had going on in there. My mom was Greek. Her parents came here in the early 1900s from Greece, and they met when they were over here. Her mom and dad did not know each other until they came here, and they lived in New Hampshire. Not sure exactly what year they met, and they got married, and they had 6 kids, 5 girls and 1 boy. And in my dad's family, there were 6 boys and 2 girls. Now, with my dad, both my parents were born in 1920, so they went through the Depression. And my parents had me, as I've said before, when they were much older. They were 39. And anyway, back in the days when they were kids, they had much larger families, especially with my dad, because they had a farm. And they had a lot of kids to help work on that farm. That's how they made their money, was selling their vegetables, and that's how they ate, was eating the things they grew. And one of my uncles, he was much younger than my dad. He would tell us that my grandma would tell him, he'd say, "Mama, I'm hungry." And she said, "Well, there's some boiled sweet taters in there." He said, to this day, well, he passed away about a year ago, but when he was talking about it, he said to that day, he couldn't eat a sweet potato. He was sick of sweet potatoes. Sweet taters. Because that's what they had as a snack. They were cold sweet taters. You know? She'd have them ready to eat. But boy, my granny was a good cook. Whoa. She made the best rolls of anyone I have ever known. Delicious. And she'd make them every day. She'd have them laid out on the counter to rise and cook them. So soft, and oh boy, I tell you what, I would weigh 300 pounds if I was eating those rolls every day. They were just delicious. But back then, they put sugar in almost everything they cooked, including vegetables. I'll never forget, she had made some purple whole peas, and she sweetened them. And I hate my vegetables to be sweet, because I was used to my mama's cooking, and my mama did not put sugar in her in those kinds of things. She cooked them very differently. So when we'd go there, that was the only thing I did not like, were like the peas and some things like that, because I wasn't used to having a sweet taste. I don't like sweetened vegetables. Do any of you do that today? Because that was something that they did back in her, I think probably because they were rationed sugar. They're in depression. I'm just guessing that maybe they did without sugar so long that they decided to put sugar in everything. I don't know. But that was the only thing. I remember she had squirrel dumplings. And I'd never eaten squirrel before, and I wasn't going to start then either. So I didn't eat it. But I think my grandpa had shot a squirrel, and she had some squirrel dumplings. But she had other food besides that. And I was a city girl. I was raised in Houston. And they lived here in the town I'm in now, and it was not much of, back then, there wasn't a whole lot in this town. I mean, there's still not a whole lot. But I could not eat. I just couldn't do it. Because I'd see squirrels in the park, and they thought they were cute, and I just couldn't eat them. So, I just remember that. And my grandpa, he was skinny as a rail, and he would eat more fat than he did lean. Reminds me of Jack Sprat. Could eat no fat. Well, maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember the rhyme right now. Anyway, he would eat the fat on his meat and everything, and he was just skinny. But he worked out in his garden all the time. They didn't need the garden at that time, but he loved it. He loved working in his garden. And when he plowed, he used one of those push plows, you know, that has the handles and the wheel and he'd get out there with that push plow and just not using an animal or anything. He just push it, and it was kind of interesting to see different ways. I never knew my grandmother on my mom's side because she died, I think, when she was only in her 40s, and my mama was the oldest in her family, so she was, I think, 20 or somewhere around there, and her mother had what they called it galloping TB, and back then they put them in an institution to take care of them so they wouldn't spread the disease. It was highly contagious. So my mama didn't get to see her mom too much. So I never knew her. Now I knew my papu. That was her dad, and I thought everybody had a papu. I did not know that was Greek for grandfather. Isn't it funny how you say things and you don't have any idea that that's not the way everybody else says it? Am I too far off where you can't see what I'm doing? I'm so busy yakking my jaws that I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. So, yeah, and my grandpa, he had a very thick accent. And my mom didn't. She had been married and lived, her first husband died of a heart attack when he was 30, and then she married my dad about 3 years later after she was widowed. So she had been around people speaking English, but her whole family, okay, they were in New Hampshire. My mom moved here, and they all moved down here. So they all ended up in Texas. And they would speak Greek when they didn't want us knowing what they were talking about. So I said, Mama, why didn't you teach us some Greek? She said, because your daddy doesn't speak it. Shoot, I wish I'd known some Greek. There were some things I'd like to have said that maybe I didn't want them to, especially my daddy, to know. He was so strict. He didn't let me or my sister go dating. we were in high school. We were not allowed to do anything. He just could not. I mean, we'll talk about overprotective. Way, way overprotected. But I know he did it because he was just scared something was going to happen to us, and they had us when they were older. It would have killed him if something had happened. But it was kind of tough. I'll never forget. I was 18 years old, and my husband, well, he was just my secret boyfriend. My mama knew about him. And I brought him home to meet my daddy. Lord have mercy. All I know is we were going to the sports banquet, and my daddy just, all he said was, you make sure you come straight home, and I want you home by 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, okay. I was, probably 18, because my birthday's in February, and I was a senior in high school, and I think it was in the spring. And Jerry was getting a trophy for being district champ in baseball. So that was it. Then Jerry was allowed to come over, as long as we all were sitting in the same room. It was kind of like something out of the maybe the 1800s. I don't know. But we were not allowed to be with boys at all. So that was how that went. Anyway, he learned to love Jerry a lot. You know, the longer we were married, Jerry's very easy most of the time. Most of the time he's very easy to get along with, and my dad really, really enjoyed talking to him, because Jerry would sit and listen to everything he had to say, and Daddy would think of him as a son. Because he would sit and listen, and he never argued back. He might have tried once or twice. He didn't argue with my daddy. You know, it was his way or the highway. So he would just agree with him. Just go on. You know, he was a lot older. So anyway, I think I'm finished with my ends, at least down here at the bottom. And that's what we got there. Let's see. Well, a little bit done. Look how sparkly. I just love this. Anyway, I guess I'll let you go. I don't even know how long I've been on here, yakking my jaws. But I hope all of you have a fantastic weekend. Today's Friday. And I hope you have a marvelous weekend. Have a blessed weekend. Take care. Enjoy whatever it is that you are going to be doing. And I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys. Love ya.